So 5 minutes in spectacles, the beginning. So when we're looking at the beginning of an in spectacles, we need to look a few things about the setting, about the setup for us. So on the front page, we get these small little details given to us here, a couple of which can be important. The fact it's in an industrial city in the North Midlands immediately sets it in a kind of capitalist world for us. The world of industry, which obviously is going to be very, very important to what we're getting. But it also gets the clash of kind of like the higher class people and the working class people who've worked their way up, like Berlin clearly has. We're told also it's spring 1912. Spring obviously goes to the idea of new beginnings. That's what we expect. It's the beginning of something new. So it's almost like Priestley suggesting hope to us at the beginning, but then giving us 1912. Now remember, this is historical, so it's set in 1912 but written in 1945, so everyone will be well aware this is 2 years before the world's engulfed in war. So we juxtapose the idea of new beginnings with the idea that horror is coming. Now when we move over to the stage directions, these are the things that we would see first when we come in. So at the beginning, we've got this idea that the general effect that we should get from seeing the dining room is one of being substantial and heavily comfortable. So there is comfort involved, but it isn't cozy and home-like. So we get the idea, really, it's a house rather than a home. And that probably sets up for us the idea that Mr. Burling isn't really somebody who creates a home. It's not a nice place for them. Now, when you look further down and see that the lighting is identified at the beginning as pink and intimate, it seems like they're living in their own kind of world, and some people have suggested like rose-coloured glasses because of the pink thing. They're living in their own world. But what we really have, though, is the idea that that's an illusion, because as we saw earlier, it's not really a home. It's not home-like. So as with so many things, it's already hinting to us that this isn't real. We're told then that, of course, when the inspector is going to arrive a bit later on, the lighting will change to being brighter and harder, as though he is kind of bringing reality to the situation. Now, the next thing we should probably notice is the seating up here. The seating that we have, arrangement, is that we would notice that Gerald and Sheila, as it says here, are seated upstage. That means they will be facing us in the audience. Therefore, we are going to notice them more. The Burlings, the older ones, are at either end of the table, as though they're kind of taking control of it. But the interesting one is that Eric is downstage. Now that would mean that he has his back to the audience, and therefore will be the person that we least notice. Already introducing him as a bit of a mysterious character. Now the last thing I'd go for here is the descriptions of these characters. Arthur Burling is described as a heavy-looking, rather portentous man in his middle 50s. And added to that, fairly easy manners. Now what does that, and rather provincial in speech. Now what does that tell us? It tells us that he is quite serious. That's what portentous means. It tells us that as he's in his middle 50s in 1912, he in himself is a Victorian. He belongs to the past. He belongs to the 19th century, basically. And this is important in a play that deals with different generations. But the provincial in his speech and the easy manners suggest his origins to us, that he comes from a working class background, potentially. Now, his wife is quite different. She's also about 50, so also Victorian, but she's described as a rather cold woman, essentially suggesting she lacks humanity. And I think the thing is, because class is brought up with her, it's suggested that that really is the reason why. It's been sucked out of her. Sheila is a pretty girl in her early 20s, very pleased with life. So we can see that at this point, and we'll come back to this, later on. At this point, Sheila is identified by her appearance and seems very superficial. Gerald Croft is described as very much the easy, well-bred young man about town. So he is a kind of upper-class socialite, someone who likes to socialise a lot. Eric is described as not quite as easy, half shy and half assertive. So, again, very unclear about himself. And we're ready for the beginning of the play.